Welcome back to the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. We have our first three-peat, and I know he's excited for it. We have Nick Mullery, the man, the myth, the legend, the daddy, father, papa.
Keep going.
But yeah, it is the name of the podcast. Um, but yeah, me and Nick have these conversations that I think everything should just be recorded at this point. I maybe not everything, but I think most things should be recorded. Um, if you have anything to start, if not, we could just start nailing topics.
No, I mean, this is becoming a dynasty. I don't know if we'll ever see this type of run on the Keep Going podcast again. So, everybody, you're witnessing history as we speak.
It's like the Yankees of the 90s. It's fantastic. Um, First, definitely want to hit on, and I would love for you to kind of like take the floor on it, is the men's group that we started, that really
Yeah.
you implemented and started,
Mhm.
if you want to go into it.
Yeah. I mean, like there was obviously a couple of like different iterations of it. So like me and you were kind of always on like the same page with like what we wanted to get out of this. And so far it's been like really cool, like an awesome thing. So for me, like personally, I just know through running and like that's kind of how we have gotten so close and our relationship has like grown over the last year or two. Through running, there's like bonds and relationships that you create that like you can't get anywhere else. And that was always like the one thing that I found so special about it. Like that's really what drew me to running. It wasn't the running itself. It was just like those other byproducts that like were something I couldn't get anywhere else. You know, like you can get fitness and exercise a million different ways, but like through running, the communication and like the deep conversations that you have like 10, 12, 15, 20 miles into a run are just like you there's that's the only way to get to that point. Um, until I thought to myself, like, there's got to be another way to like peel back the layers without having to spend like 2 or 3 hours running through trails or like down a boardwalk to like get to this point. So that's kind of what I like had in mind with this whole thing is just like peel back the layers, go deep, like instead of running from all of the feelings and emotions and uh all the things that are inside of you, good or bad or ugly, like just turn inward and like talk about it and verbalize it. Um, and you'll be like so much better for it. And you'll make a better impact on the people around you as well. And again, so far it seems like that's all been true. Like every time we leave one of those meetings, I just feel like I don't know. I feel like I walk a little bit taller that day. Like I feel energized that day. Like I feel ready to take on anything that's in front of me.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And like you said, there's been iterations, and then I've been part of. Um, I've been lucky enough to be part of other men's groups that are Zooms and people aren't local. And that's kind of where it even came to life for me. And you're right, like it's a game changer.
Mm.
Um, there's there's not many things like it, and I think a lot of men need it.
Hmm.
And I think something cool that we do is that I think there's always something that someone should be talking about, like it's on their mind. And I don't know, I would assume it's just a male thing that we have like a hard time, whether it's ego, whether it's like you need to be like the man, like the masculine side of it, where it's like you won't let that thing come to light. But if we come up, like what we do is we do come up with like a topic or a question. And then like as you navigate that topic in question, whatever that fucking thing was that was supposed to be talked about comes up anyway.
Hmm.
And that's the best part.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny too, because like obviously not that like we're like running the show, but like we orchestrate it, right? And then how many times, and I'm gonna just call myself out, like how many times is it just like Vin rambling of like what's really going on in like his head or
Yeah.
his life? And I just laugh because I'm like, I'm orchestrating this for other people, yet the fucking thing works for me so well too. Like
Yeah.
that's like my favorite part.
Right. And same thing for me too. Like I have to admit, I selfishly wanted to start something like this because this was the thing that like I wanted to exist in the world that I could join. So I was like, hey, why don't I just start something that I know I can use and take value from immediately and right away? And I do have to kind of like rewind a little bit and give credit to Joe Rinaldi at Project Endure because the first time I really like felt enlightened to this idea was through like the small group breakouts where like he has reflection questions for you to go through. And I remember the first year that I went, um, I knew like something like that was going to go on, and I was like, "Ah, I'm going to be like so uncomfortable to like write down or speak my feelings, like my true inner feelings. Like, I don't know how I'm going to like come up with an answer that doesn't sound so corny and like whatever." I was like so in my head. And then like once one person in that group expressed vulnerability, it was like a domino effect. Then like the next person, the next person, the next person, all the way to me, like was ready to just like, hey, here's everything. This is behind the scenes. This is what I haven't told anybody. This is what I'm feeling and thinking on a day-to-day basis. And just like getting that out was like breathing in like fresh air into my life. So yeah, that was kind of just like the feeling that I was chasing. And again, that happened a little bit with running with other people, like through the trails and you know, far runs. Like you get to that point where like you kind of break things down and you're vulnerable. And yeah, that was just something that I wanted more of. And instead of like waiting once a year for the Project Endure event, or instead of like running for 3 miles with a friend, like why not just create something that we can just like get right to it? And
Yeah,
here we go.
it's true. And I wonder too if like the, 'cause, I would say I think everybody in the group is in endurance and or fitness, obviously to some degree.
Mm.
And I think majority are like, marathon and over. So it is definitely endurance. So I think because of that too, like you almost like there's nothing to prove masculine wise because we all know like we're just like we love this shit. We're like savages when it comes to like the physical. So like it almost lets you peel back those layers without like it's almost like a guard. Like it's like a safeguard. It's like, oh well, like you can run 100 miles. So like yeah, like let him cry. Like it's like a weird dynamic that like I feel at least where I'm like, like I love it where it's like, yeah, I'll go smash 30 miles, but like I'm like a soft dude.
Yeah,
Like and I
yeah.
think it's
Well,
cool.
yeah, no, and that's what it is. Like once everybody shows up in a vulnerable way, like there's nothing to prove. Like nobody's trying to outdo the other person. It's just we're all there for a reason. And that reason, to your point, we all are into fitness and we're all like into training, right? Like we're trying to build up our bodies or like train for certain things physically. So we already have that like mentality, but there's no way to like train the way that you think and perceived and show up and react to the world mentally or emotionally. I mean, like some people go to therapy and stuff like that, and that's one way to do it. But this is just another way for us to kind of like sharpen our mental game and like really get like a objective lens on our life and our life situations and like how we can handle them the best. And I think that's really what's also powerful. Like I look at it as a workout. It's not a physical workout, but it's like a mental and emotional workout for me. Just
Yeah.
as important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really like that. It's so true. It is. It is definitely a mental. It's like building mental fortitude in a
Yeah.
different lane. Yeah.
Right.
And then if you want to just kind of go over like how we have it laid out currently, as far as like how the meetings are working out, and yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't say we have like anything like super concrete. But usually we have like alternating Zoom and in-person meetings. So one week we'll have a Zoom meeting where everybody can kind of just call in, whether like on their way to work, in their home offices or whatever, and we do things that way. And then the other week will be in person, and I always like those a lot more because there's just a different feel. I think when you like someone walks in the door, you dap them up, give them a hug, "What's up, bro?" Then like the energy is a little bit different there too. So I always really like those, but obviously it's hard to get everybody together in the same building with everybody being so busy, obviously. So the remote calls work great as well, and we usually get a good turnout for those.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, I do you have anything else to kind of touch on with the men's group? I think we nailed it.
No, I mean it's in its infancy, I think. I think it will change and evolve over time, so long as we kind of stick to it, which I um, am determined to do, because like I said, this is something that I've seen as like a missing piece in my life. So it's something that I want to exist for as long as possible, and however it unfolds, it unfolds. But for right now, yeah, that's pretty much it. And if there is anybody listening to this that would be interested in joining a meeting, reach out to myself or you, obviously, and come check it out and see what it's all about. We're open to everybody, so the more the merrier, I think.
Absolutely. And just to switch gears a little bit, do you kind of want to go into like your current season of life?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that we talk about a lot in the
Yeah.
meetings too. So I think it's a really very topical situation to talk about. But um, yeah, I just once I've kind of changed my perspective from like, all right, I'm not doing this right now, this whatever it may be, or however like my life looks at the time, rather than being like critical of it. Viewing it as a season allows me to be like, all right, cool. I'm like just in a certain time in my life where I have to handle certain priorities, certain things kind of make their way up the priority list, and they'll shuffle themselves around in the next 3 to 6 months, and I'll be doing something else too. So, um, for me right now, obviously the baby was born in January. So like from then until now has been a a huge like family heavy season of life. Um, and now kind of as I'm transitioning, not, I wouldn't say out of that, but like now that that's become more of like a constant in my life, like I know I'm now entering into like a heavy career season of life. We're relocating the business and stuff. So like from now until December is going to be just getting that ready. And like I can see kind of that all coming and start to prepare myself for that now, that priorities may have to shift around a little bit too. And last year was a big like fitness season of life for me. I did a couple big races, and I ran and worked out almost every day, and things just kind of change, and there's no right or wrong. It's literally just a matter of like knowing what's next and preparing and prioritizing around it.
Yeah. Do you ever like battle that? Like, of course, there is no wrong, like, right? Like, your life is lived however you want it to be lived. But do you ever like feel like, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that? And like, how do you kind of personally navigate that?
Yeah, all the time. And even though there is like no wrong way to do a day, like I think we've talked about that too.
Yeah.
The only wrong way to do a day is thinking there's a right way to do a day. I forget who said that, but that quote's out there. Yeah, even though I like fundamentally understand that, and I'm like, as long as I'm doing what I want to do today, then I'm living my life to the fullest. There's always times that come in, especially recently, with like not being so heavily involved in like my fitness, especially being surrounded by people like yourself and other people who are running ultras, running marathons seemingly every single weekend. It's hard to be like, wow, it's like kind of hard for me to run like 5 miles right now when I was doing that last year with all these guys. So it is hard, um, but I still just try to keep myself grounded with that and know like, hey, if I'm putting 10% of my effort or my time into fitness because all I have is 10% right now, then I'm giving it all I got. So I just try to constantly remind myself of that, but it is really hard. The same way that when I was training heavily last year and running a lot and being out of the house for 2 3 hours at a time, that was really hard to be like, am I doing the right thing in my relationship right now? Like, is my wife mad at me? Does she wish I was home right now? Like, she was pregnant at the time. Like, am I just being a total dick? I don't know. Like, it was hard to have that inner dialogue, but just like being in communication with her at the time and just telling her like, hey, this is what's really important to me right now. This is like kind of something I just feel like I'm called to do. Once I get through this, like my time will be focused on you. I promise. We had many conversations like that, and I followed through. And I think that's what allows me to be okay with the way my life is going right now, and allow me to still have a good relationship with my wife and be present as a dad and all those things, is because I had a season last year where that was maybe not the highest priority. But communication is always key. And things always come back around. I think the important thing there is like being open about it and following through and keeping your word. Like if I told her, yeah, I'm just going to get through these races this year. And then when the baby's born, I swear I'll give all my time to you guys. If I didn't, if I was like signing up for races and out of the house all the time, she probably would have been like, what the fuck? And like, maybe that would have led to problems between us down the road. But yeah, I just try to prioritize my time where I feel like it needs to be and I follow through on my word.
Yeah. And like you said, like your 100% is your 100%. Like it might not be 100% at that time in that thing, but you're giving what you can. And I think what you're hitting on too is like, it sounds like you have good control with not emptying yourself, right? Like what you are sacrificing and balancing is because you don't want to work on E and completely deplete yourself. Therefore, like you are obviously juggling all of these balls, but it's in a manner of, like you said, the season of your life and then what you can kind of afford to sacrifice.
Yeah. And there's as much as I'm aware of it and I'm like consciously trying to always keep things in that balance or in that flux that we talk about. Like there's days where I come home from work and it's like a long work day and I'm like stressed out and like I come home and I I don't necessarily like show up the way I want to at home and like it's really frustrating for me too. Like even in the moment I'll be like this is not what I want to do, but like every day is a new opportunity, right? So like always just trying to constantly learn from how I'm reacting to things and how I'm showing up for my family and stuff and at work and like reiterating it and making it like a more polished product over time. I think is like also something that is key for me too. Because yeah, there's as much as I know the theory of like how to keep everything where it should be, it isn't every day. But it's just a matter of like being aware of it, admitting to it, like today wasn't my best day, and then trying to make it a little bit better the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, I mean, you have dudes like myself that are like, I'm envious of the season of your life, right? And it's like a season that's obviously, hopefully, um, down the road for me, but I'm in a completely different season where like my whole life is fitness. Like I was talking to people yesterday, there was a group run between Locals Run Club and Vitalizer in Belmar. And, I'm talking to dudes and like I'm realizing like we have really me, my roommates, you, like we've really normalized shit that just is not normal. Like
Mhm.
I'm talking to these people and then like people are like, "Oh, that's so cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like you don't understand." Like I don't even know how many times I said this statement yesterday. I was like, "But you don't understand. This has been like my whole life for 2 years."
Yeah.
Because people were like, "Oh, dude, somebody said you hit like 140 miles last week." I'm like, "Yeah, but you really don't get it. Like you do other things, you hang out with people, like you go to bars, like bro, this is I go to bed at 9:30, like this has been it. Like and I'm not complaining. I have a blast. I've chosen to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking blessed to do it. Like no one has more fun doing this shit than me. But it's also understanding that like I'm willing to forego and sacrifice all of that stuff to kind of like build up at least where I'm at now, fitness wise, where it's just like, yeah, I could knock out 27 miles on a Saturday and just like it's fun.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's funny because like I noticed that yesterday, and obviously it's just a different season for me. Um, and then my nephew, people like yourself, like you guys helped me realize that like this is the season because I think people get trapped in that David Goggins where it's like if you're not always on grind mode, like you're a pussy. And it's like, well, no, you're not. Like you're a fucking psycho for
Mhm.
like thinking you need to do that all the time and then for not adjusting and adapting and growing and changing.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think it's funny because we share the mutual love of like just life, like loving life. I think me and you are very good at understanding like this is just sweet. This whole thing is sweet. We're very lucky to like just be able to fucking be here on this spinning rock. Like the gratitude that I know we both share, and we're both smiling because we know, like we talk about all the time. Like, bro, like I wake up full of piss and vinegar. And nothing happened. Like, I'm just happy that I fucking woke up. Like, I have air in my lungs, and it's like, oh, I could go run 10 miles today. Like, that's fucking beautiful. Like, for the past like probably month, I've been sending my mom a picture. She doesn't even care, but I've been sending my mom a picture of like wherever I'm running, and like I try and take like an artsy picture. I'm no good at it, but like, and I just say like love you. And it's just like, but that's like my reminder of like, you get to do this and like you're doing the thing. And
Yeah.
it's like simple, right? Like it's me running shoes. And these days there's no shirt. So it's just me running shoes and music. And it's just like, but that's it. Like it's just understanding that this is life. And we try and like think about the future and all these crazy things that we need and want and to do. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But you're like living right now too. So
Mhm.
like understand that. And I think that's where we really meet. And the coolest dynamic is that like right now, like outside looking in, people think I'm fucking David Goggins. And then outside looking in, you're super dad. So like it's like this cool thing where like we share that mutual love of just like we're here on this earth doing the thing.
Mhm.
And I rambled there, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
No, you're spot on too. And I think a lot of like the enjoying life and like just happy to be here and gratitude for like everything is literally just verbalizing it.
Yeah.
Like it's inside all of us, but as soon as, and we've talked about this, as soon as you like let it out, it becomes true, right? Like we've talked about like guys, like men talking to each other. Even just like for me personally, I've told you with like different members of my family and stuff, like saying I love you is almost like a taboo, like, ooh, what? Like love? Like you love
Yeah.
me? Like I barely know you, like we're kind of friends, so like why would you say that? But like I do just have a lot of love in my heart. And when I meet someone like yourself that like I just get along with and like really love and love being around, I say it. And like when I say it, I'm like, yeah, I do love this person. Like they become so much more important to me. And like that relationship becomes so much stronger to me. The same thing with life. Like when you say like, wow, I love my life right now, you truly start to love your life right now. And when people even, people close to me, they ask me like, oh, how's your day going? How's this, that? I'm like, my day is amazing. Like they're so thrown off by that. They're like, what? Like, what do you even mean? I'm like, I don't know. Do you see like my life? Like, what do I have to not love right now? Like, whatever. And like sometimes I don't always think that, but like I verbalize it and then I'm like, yeah, I do have everything I could have possibly want right now. Like no matter what season of life I'm in, it's like gratitude for these things, verbalizing like your love for it and all of that. And that's part of the group too, is like not just being vulnerable and talking about the negative, but like being positive and like showing gratitude and speaking about, love and relationships and all that. It makes you believe it once you say it.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
Mhm.
And it's also like a way to turn your day around too, right? Where it's just like you hang your hat on that, where it's just like, yeah, things happen, but like you could have a bad moment. You don't have to have a bad day. And
Mhm.
I just said it. I was at dinner last night and I just said it where it was like, I just think of anybody like Derek Jeter. Like
Mhm.
I would not trade places with fucking Derek Jeter. And like, yeah, people are like, yeah, okay. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, but you know what? Derek Jeter doesn't have my mom. Like,
Uh,
dude, like he doesn't. Derek
yeah.
Jeter, Derek Jeter sure as shit wasn't running 27 miles yesterday.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, no, I truly wouldn't because I'm doing what I want to do.
Right.
And I think it takes a lot of honestly showing up for yourself and doing stuff and showing commitment to stacking the chips in the favor of the person you want to be
Mhm.
to like really honor that and understand that like you have you. And then from there, you could really build out what you want out of life because you've built yourself up to
Mhm.
like a standard that you respect. And
Mhm.
I think that was like a crucial game changer for me. And I just hit a 30-mile bike ride before this. And I know the numbers, I've just been throwing out numbers there. And my numbers aren't even that fucking impressive. But on that bike ride, I was literally thinking about it. And like, I have an Ironman coming up and it's like so mental, like all of it. Like, yeah, of course, there is a physical aspect to training and anything you do, but so much of it is like just have the confidence to walk in the room and like be the person. Like, no one fucking knows what's actually going on inside your head,
Yeah.
right? Like, like you have no idea. Like, if I, perfect example, like if you're gonna ask a girl out, like, but you have the balls to do it, she has no idea how nervous you are if you ask.
Mhm.
Like it's you ask, that's it. The thing's done. It doesn't matter how like if you fake bravery, it's
Mhm.
still being brave. Like Chris Williamson says that, and I'm fully obsessed with him. But it's true. It is. And like I was biking and I was like 90% of it is just having the confidence to do the thing. And it doesn't even have to be physical. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Because the other part of it is just the act.
Mhm.
But it's the buildup before the act, which just stops people.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I think that's also what we hit on with like just like loving life, where it's just like, yeah, just like stack it so much in the favor of like this thing is great.
Hmm.
And it is. Like, I mean, we could complain and we could look at all the bad shit that happens, but it's like you also get to experience that. Like, what's the alternative? Not experiencing anything.
Hmm.
So like you're winning. You're already playing with like it's house money.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think like the point that could get missed here too is that like this doesn't happen overnight either. Like you said, like you have so much fun going on runs, like putting 140-mile weeks together. If somebody like is wants that, like wow, like I want to experience what Vin feels on a 30-mile run, like that doesn't happen from like doing it one time. Like, oh, let me buy a pair of running shoes and like do a 30-mile run. I'll feel what he feels. Like, no, you went through years now at this point of like runs where you probably felt like shit and like weren't having fun and like what's the point of all this, right? Like that's how I feel sometimes, especially in the beginning when like you're not really where you want to be. But then you get to the point where you want to be, and now 10 miles, which to a lot of people is a pretty long run, you can like sneeze out 10 miles essentially whenever you want. And like that's where you get to the point where like it's so fun for you because you've taken something that's important and you've taken it so far and been so consistent with it that like now it's like a weapon to you. Like you're just wielding that around and being like, whenever I want to tap into something that makes me feel incredible, I just do this thing that I've spent years building and talk about superpowers. That's like a superpower now that you have. And I
Yeah.
think that's really special. I mean, for me, I kind of relate that to with like my work now. Like I own a business, so I work for myself. And that's something that I've wanted to do since college. And it's taken me years to get to the point where I'm at right now. Like, I didn't just open a business and it was like super successful. It takes a long time of like not really being where you need to be to then get to the point where you're like, this is fucking fun now. Like, I have freedom to do the things that I want to do, or I just can truly enjoy my work and I'm not like being influenced by a boss or somebody telling me how to do it. Like I can just do it however I want. And like that makes it fun, but it
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight.
It's so true. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like part of it too, right? Where it's like the fitness aspect for me, the work aspect for you, like life is kind of just building up these pillars. And then again, it goes back to the seasons. What season are you in and can you currently stack those chips? And
Mm-hmm.
what are you willing to sacrifice in the process will eventually raise like all of the levels of, work, relationships, family, love, like all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think it's like such a cool dynamic.
Yeah. And it's like we say the word balance too, like we talk about that. And like I think of balance not like everything being at the same level, but more of like dials on a control board. Like if one thing goes up, some other things have to come down to like make up the difference. Because we all have only like so many hours in a day, so much energy to put into the world and into these things. But yeah, like if you want to enjoy being with your family or like having a family, like you need to put time and energy into that dial for like a long period of time to get to the point where you're like, I have so much fun with my family. Like, again, another thing with me, Sarah, and Colson went out to breakfast today. That's kind of just like what we do. Like on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, we go out and get coffee and get breakfast. And like we've done that for like every week for a long time now that's just like part of my routine. And when I do it, I'm really happy. And if we miss it for a weekend, I feel like I had kind of a crappy weekend, like I didn't do the thing that's like so fulfilling for me now, even though it's so easy. But yeah, you can apply that to like any aspect of your life, just being able to do something consistently when it's not fun or feels like work because you are building it to get to the point where you're like, now I know I'm going to have fun when I go to work. I know I can go out for a 10-mile run and just enjoy the scenery and not like worry about how shitty I'm feeling. Like all those things can work for you if you're willing to put the time in.
Yeah. And then so advice wise, like what would you have to someone that is like, all right, well then how do you get to like a good level with whatever it is?
Um, Again, I would just say consistency. it doesn't happen quickly, and like there are a lot of ups and downs. Like there's going to be times where you're like, oh, I feel like it's working, I'm getting somewhere, and then the next week you feel like, how am I back to square one? Like I just put in 6 months of work, and now it feels like it did in the very beginning. Like that happens. It's a roller coaster. It goes up and down, and I also think you'll never truly feel like I made it, but you have to stop and look around and be like, this was the moment that I was dreaming about when I first started. Like, no matter where you are in the journey, it's where you wanted to be at one point earlier. Even though you can still see forward what you still have to do or still what you want to do and like where you can go with it, there's always a time for you to stop and reflect and realize how far you've come. And that's going to give you that motivation to keep going too.
I mean, is there a better place to end this? Seriously. That
I don't,
was I mic drop. I mean, I cut these reels. I don't even know how I'm gonna cut that. It was like 4 minutes of just Nick Mullery just absolutely slaying. Um,
you
but I
got me
think the perfect,
going. I mean,
yeah,
I was just flowing right there.
oh, piss and vinegar. That's what we're full of today, every day. But I do want to say I think the perfect way to end it is to say I love you. I hope you have a great day, and I appreciate you as a human being.
Yeah. I love you too, man. I love these conversations. I'm always happy and grateful when we get the opportunity to do something like this. We do it all the time off record, but on record is even better to share with everybody else too. So thank you.
Yeah,
For all
keep
this.
the dynasty alive, baby.
No, everybody wants to come for the belt now. Watch. I have everybody knocking on the door.